What's up, guys? Justin Digibani here, and welcome to Roosevelt National Forest. This is going to be my first panorama, and I feel like this location is going to be pretty nice. A lot of good foreground leading lines and the mountains in the background. Oh yeah. So we're essentially kind of waiting a little bit longer. The sun sets at like 7:30 at this location, but the way that the mountains are, the sun will disappear from these mountains around 6:30. I came here a few days ago, just got out the location, and it looks pretty good. I think I already have a spot picked out for us to photograph, but you know, you ever see those photographers that like add something in the foreground or like remove something from the foreground just so they could get a better shot? Well, I ended up moving a whole entire tree. yeah, I'll swing you guys around. Yeah, that sucker right there, that whole thing. That big sucker, along with smaller trees and branches, just because it was in my foreground. So I kind of cheated. I had to move that thing, which I ended up recording the whole process here. The way that I wanted to start out my panorama was to start at like here and then finish over here, which is obviously a panorama. But the beginning of the first couple frames, part of that trunk of that tree was in the foreground. I didn't want it there just because it'll mislead your eye into a different direction. So I didn't want that. I wanted this creek to actually be my leading line to kind of help your eyes follow downrange of the mountain. I didn't want that bulky ass tree, you know, kind of interrupting the composition. So we got about like 3 hours until that peak moment. I think I'm gonna bring the drone out and kind of give you a little bit of better perspective, kind of, you know, allow you guys to see much more of this place. So let's go. So as I'm waiting for that sun right there, I think we'll be able to get the 6:30 peak time for these mountains. But as I'm kind of like waiting around, I've been kind of like taking pictures with my cell phone and come across this section of water that's nice and steady. So when I see you know, steady water, I automatically think of a photo. So as you can see, like, I have the camera way down low, like resting on top of this tree branch right here, and oh man, it's really, oh yeah, really good reflection. And what's actually like making it really good are my legs. My legs are casting a shadow right where that little body of water is. Now I already took the photo. Now watch what happens when I swing my legs around. Ugh. Just like that. And I'm gonna take that same photo and rest it right on top of the tree branch and take that same photo. So I'll show you the results of like the before and after. Looking through like the phone right here, with my legs being right here and casting a shadow, it's actually doing it a lot better. That way you could actually focus on the reflection of the mountain itself, because when I move my legs, the sun is reflecting onto these rocks and it's kind of distracting a little bit. So, you know, as you kind of like wait around for, you know, the lighting, like right now, as I'm kind of doing, bring out your phone and kind of like take pictures of like your surroundings, because you never know what you'll come up with, and just kind of like, you know, play around, because you've pretty much got like time to kill. So, you know, we'll see. I got everything down, as you can see. I'll explain this here in a second. This video is going to be a little bit technical, but I hope you guys can follow along. If not, leave me a question down below and I'll kind of explain this a little bit more if you guys don't understand it yet. So before I talk about my setup, I actually came down to this location here along the river and the mountains, and you know, in the background. And to give you an idea to do a panorama, your phone. When you open up your camera app, there's going to be a panorama setting. I don't know about, I think Android has it, but I know iPhone for surely does. So essentially I took my phone and I did a in-camera panorama of just panning the phone from right to left. That way I could visually see how this photo might look like. And it really helps, because I started out, you know, standing on end. It was all right, but I wanted more foreground. So I got down low at this location and I pulled out the panorama and I took a picture from right to left. And that actually looks really good. So your phone can be an excellent tool along with your photography. So nice little tip for you. So let me tell you about my setup. So this part's a little bit complicated. I'll try my best to elaborate the best I can. So if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you if you have any questions about this whole setup or about panoramas. Hopefully this works out really well. So before you even put your camera onto your tripod, you're gonna have to level your tripod. Depending on your tripod, and I'm pretty sure majority of them do have levelers. There's a leveler right here. Nice little bubble. That's a tongue twister. A nice little bubble leveler right here for your tripod. You're gonna have to get that just right depending on your surface. So this surface right here, I've got 3 different kinds of surface. There's one rock for each 2 of the legs, and then another leg right on the sand itself. Once you get that level down and correct, like right in the center, depending on your tripod head, you're gonna have to also do your tripod head so it's nice and level. As you can see right down here, level that. And then once you have the 2 or 1, depending on your tripod setup, go ahead and attach your camera. Once you do, you're going to be putting it, I have a angle measurement right here, and I'm at 90 degrees, so it's in portrait mode. When it's in portrait mode, you're going to be able to get more up top and more on bottom. That way you get more of your foreground and more of your background, whatever it is. Because I mean, you could shoot landscape, but I mean, you'll get a better result if you do portrait position. Landscape, you're pretty much, you know, going from like here to here, and you're just making it much longer than what it really needs to be. I mean, when you do portrait, you're also getting more of the landscape itself, you know. Even like right here, I'm using a 24-70 Mark II L glass of the Canon series, and it's covering just enough for my foreground, which is these rocks right here, the river that's, you know, streaming along, and my background, which is these tall mountains. Man, they're gorgeous. So what I'm going to be doing is a long exposure on my camera. In order to do that, I have a variable neutral density, wow, tongue twister. I have a variable neutral density filter on my lens itself. That way I can essentially make the lens darker as I turn it one way or another. Before you even darken your lens, I want you to get your focus in before you actually crank that down, if you're using it. If not, you can still go ahead and like pre-focus. So what I ended up doing with my focusing, I got about like a third of the way in, probably next to these pine trees, and I kind of like focus on, or at least like on the mountain itself. And then after you get your focus down, I want you to turn it on to manual focus. That way, every time you sweep over and you hit the shutter, your camera is not going to refocus. So your focus is already set, and it's going to help out your composition. So you don't have to worry about your focusing again. You're not going to have to worry about your focusing on each time you take a photo. Just set it once and then forget it. So once you have your focus down, then you can actually turn your ring a little bit darker. Make sure your composition is just the way that you like it. Remember, use your phone to give you like an idea of how you want the photo. I do like that the rocks in the river are kind of pushing up the water and creating different patterns of light all along this creek or river, you know, whatever. And it adds a nice little good foreground to it. And the reason why I'm using the neutral density filter to darken my lens is because this creek right here, I want to blur the white on that river. That way when I throw it in Lightroom or Photoshop, I could stitch it much better than a very sharp image, because the smoothness of the river will kind of help out the processing of stitching the photos together. Hopefully. Let me tell you about my camera settings now that after I explained the lens and the process of, you know, your focusing and everything. So my camera settings are, my shutter is at 1/4 of a second. That way I could smoothen or like blur the river that's going by right now. My aperture is at f11. That way I have everything in focus. Think of it, f11 when you do panorama is like the sweet spot for when you focus on things. And my ISO is 50, so it's in the L mark, it's below 100. That way I could just kind of lower my shutter just a little bit more. Looking off near the horizon, where the sun is setting, there's a layer of clouds that's approaching the sun. So it's not 6:30 yet, which is like peak time for this location, but I still want to go ahead and grab the photo before that sun goes right behind it, because these mountains are going to be a little bit different, not as exciting when the sun is completely gone off of them. So real quick, oh man, this is like a pain. I didn't know, you know, doing a panorama you gotta get in a weird position. All right, I'll take off my sunglasses because I don't need them. It's so bright, so bright. Okay, the using the cable release helps any kind of vibration if you were to actually like use the shutter up here. Since it is a long exposure, I don't want any kind of vibration. So I'm pretty much kind of like leaning, holding the cable release in my right hand, and then I'm going to be panning with my left hand. So I have this knob right here already loosened. That way it just makes it easier to pan across really quick. I also, as you can see, I also raised the tripod head up just a little bit. That's loud. Motorcycle going by. Depending on how you like it, or depending, it's up to you if you want to start left to right, but in this case I'm going to start with the closest mountain next to me, and I'm going to get a little bit of this pine tree off on the right hand side too. So this part, this is the fun part, try to squeeze in. Pain in it. There we go. Oh yeah, yeah. So when I start this composition, this pine tree, I have it to the left of the frame, so there's a little bit more room on this composition when I stitch it together. I don't want the pine tree, you know, like really to the edge of it. I don't want that. I want a little bit more room. I got everything set. I'm gonna go ahead and look through the viewfinder. Oh yeah, yeah, that's golden, baby. So with the trigger in my right hand, let's go ahead. So we'll take the first shot, make sure everything's looking good. Oh yeah. When you go from frame to frame to frame, you kind of want to overlap each frame by like a third. Meaning you don't want to take the photo and have it, you know, frame here, frame here. You actually kind of want to overlap it. That way it'll be an easy process when you throw it in your photo editing, so like Lightroom, Photoshop, or whatever you guys use. So on each frame, make sure they're overlapping by at least a third. You could do, you know, half if you really wanted to make sure that, you know, you're doing like really good on it. Let's continue. There we go. There's that one. So that's two. This part sucks because I gotta like keep on leaning. All right, and then recompose. There we go. That's freaking sweet. All right. Yeah, so this one about five frames to make sure this is looking good. Once you're done, go into your photo review and just scroll over. So when you scroll, you'll see a cheating way of what the photo will look like, because when you scroll, you'll see each frame jumping. Yeah, that looks really good so far. Dang, that looks, oh man, I'm pretty excited about it. Really good foreground. of the rocks in the water, along with you'll see rocks down underneath the water. Really, really good. And then the what I was talking about earlier, the walks, the walks, and even the rocks underneath the water in the creek itself. The whiteness is lovely, lovely. A nice little blur at 1/4 of a second. And then of course the mountains up here being kissed by the sun ever so nicely. And then to my surprise, I guess I wasn't really paying attention, this huge cloud in the background will just like top it off just nicely. So I'm pretty much, where's my hand? I'm pretty much cutting it off right about here. There's a little bit of mountain off in the background, which that's looking really, really good. Oh, yeah. So I think right now I got a little bit of time to play with. I'm gonna kind of bring up the drone a little bit and get a little bit more B-roll, maybe like up the creek. You know, why not? Show you guys more of this place. So I'll get a little bit of drone footage and a little bit of footage with the GoPro Max. That way you guys can actually see much wider perspective of what this place looks like. So let's go. When I went upriver to get a little bit more drone footage, I came across this like really good composition in that same area where I was flying, using the river itself to reflect the mountain in the background. It worked really good, but I wish there was just a little bit more of a visual of the mountains itself, like in the reflection. But I mean, it's still a really good shot, which I will show you guys that photo here. I essentially, on my camera, I went to an 8 to 16 millimeter on the lens, and I got really down low. I didn't look through the viewfinder or anything. I just kind of like, I'll show you. I'll pretty much like took my camera about like here, and I aimed it a little bit more up, focused on the mountain, and then kind of like recomposed, and I kind of like brought it back down and took the photo. I used an 8 to 16 millimeter lens to exaggerate the foreground a little bit more and also get more of the background. So there's like two peaks that you'll see. So I'm pretty sure if you guys seen my videos using the GoPro Max, I'm pretty sure you guys seen the little dead cat tail. So I have a dead cat tail on each of the camera lenses, the front and the back, and then along with the top up here, and then one on the side over here. Yeah, so I've got dead cats all around this camera for all the different microphones, and I've been trying to like perfect it that way you guys don't see the dead cat tail I've been just kind of like pushing it. I have it in a direction that the flow of it, or the pattern, kind of folds away from the camera. That way I can kind of like pat it down so you guys don't see the dead cat tail. So I think my last video, I did a lot better job than my first one, which I'll post that last video like right here. Trying to get better at hiding the dead cat so you guys don't see it in the video. Alright, so that's it for the time being. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Yes! And if you want to see more of the videos that I produce, go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. Yes! But until then, I will see you all in the next video. See ya!